Yeah, we voted for Trump in 2016, 2020, and 2024. We live in the Florida Panhandle, and we thought that this would be good for our business. But we're finding out now that we were wrong, and I want to publicly say that we are regretting our votes.
It was inevitable that MAGA would self-destruct. 10 years ago, Trump was in his 60s and seemed to resonate with the slack-jawed, intellectually lazy American by beating up immigrants, women, and minorities with his racist attacks against Obama.
Why doesn't he show his birth certificate?
But no one thought it would last this long. But in the last 4 years after he lost in 2020...
And I said, this system is rigged.
Well, in the 4 years Biden was in office, while MAGA blamed the pandemic inflation on Joe, Trump raised their expectations a little too high. I'll end the Ukraine war in a day. I'll end inflation in a day. I'll bring back businesses to the U.S. And, of course, I'll deport 11 million people. And while the tariffs tested Republicans' patience, now he's threatening war with Iran. And that may be the proverbial final straw.
Our sources are telling us that at the White House, President Trump is weighing using U.S. aircraft and bombs to strike Iran's nuclear facilities. A senior Israeli official says they're also waiting to learn whether or not the president is going to help them achieve their goal of destroying Iran's nuclear program.
Now, this talk about war with Iran, which may or may not have been close to having a nuclear weapon, is resonating with MAGA, and they're not happy. Even Dairy Queen is pushing back with Trump, which is amazing and maybe predictable because no one wants to see soldiers fighting in the Middle East, and especially when Tulsi Gabbard, his director of national intelligence, seems to be saying, no, they're not close to having a nuke. And of course, Trump freaks out and attacks Gabbard. But probably the biggest fracas is between two of Trump's most loyal ass-kissers, Teddy and Tucker.
How many people living around?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah.
How could you not know that? What's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay.
It's not even. You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
Now, granted, catching Teddy in those traps is what Tucker does for a living. And Cruz is a pathetic, spineless mope, but so is Carlson. Neither of these two cockwaffles have American interests at heart, but they're prime examples of this. MAGA no longer supports Trump. And maybe it's the tail wagging the dog. Maybe MAGA is controlling Trump. When Trump said there would not be ICE raids on farms, restaurants, and hotels because he wanted to protect voters,
Our farmers are being hurt badly by, they have very good workers. They've worked for them for 20 years. They're not citizens, but they've turned out to be, great. And we're going to have to do something about that. We can't take farmers and take all their people and send them back because they don't have maybe what they're supposed to have. And I think we can't do that to our farmers. And leisure, too, hotels. We're going to have to use a lot of common sense on that.
He quickly reversed after pushback from the extreme right, characterized by people like this guy.
And white people are done being bullied.
And this guy.
White supremacy, that's the problem. This is a hoax.
Now, that sounds outrageous, but let's examine what's happening. You have Republicans with experience and brains that see the danger of deporting millions of American workers in our agriculture and manufacturing sector while creating tariffs that will not only be inflationary, but will cost Americans jobs and possibly hurl us into a recession. And this isn't intellectual coffee talk. This shit is already happening.
3 Novembers ago, they were among the many Pennsylvanians who helped decide a presidential election.
Frank, who did you vote for president?
Mr. Trump.
Right?
Trump. Mr. Trump.
If the election were today, Frank, would you vote for Donald Trump?
No way.
Couldn't happen.
No.
But of course, while Israel and Gaza riled up the Democratic left, the idea of bombing Tehran has MAGA freaking out. Here's Cruz calling Tucker an anti-Semite.
It's interesting you're trying to derail my questions by calling me an anti-Semite, which you are.
I did not.
Of course you are. And rather than be honorable enough to say it right to my face, you are in a sleazy, feline way implying it or just asking questions about the Jews. I'm not asking questions about the Jews. I have There's nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to do with the foreign government.
Isn't Israel controlling our foreign policy? That's not about the Jews.
You said, I'm asking you.
And by the way, you're the one that just called me, I think, a sleazy feline. So let's be clear.
It's sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite, which you just did.
No, I just said, why is that the only question you're asking? You answer it. Give me another reason. If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel.
I am in no sense obsessed with Israel. We are on the brink of war with Iran. And so these are valid questions.
But you're not asking about Iran or the
If I can finish, you asked me why I'm obsessed with Israel.
Yep.
3 minutes after telling me that when you first ran for Congress, you elucidated one of your main goals, which is to defend Israel.
Yes.
And I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel. I don't see a lawmaker's job as defending the interests of a foreign government, period. Okay. Any government, including the ones that my ancestors come from. So that's my position. That does not make me an anti-Semite. And shame on you for suggesting otherwise. And I mean that. And that's low, and you know it's low. So why don't you just answer my questions in a straightforward, rational way? You certainly have the IQ to do it.
So shame on you is cute, by the way, Tucker.
It is. It's not cute. I'm offended. I'm obsessed with the Jews. You just told me
you just called me a sleazy feline.
It is sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite for asking questions about how my government is run.
You want to count how many questions you asked about? What about the Jews? What about Israel? What about AIPAC?
I never asked about the Jews. This has nothing to do with the Jews, whatever that.
So is MAGA imploding, or is it Trump who's showing signs of a steep physical and mental decline?
And Americans only.
Is Stephen Miller, who recently ousted Kristi Noem from Homeland, ready and willing to steer the truck? MAGA is basically two camps. They're the bottom-feeding weak cuckolds who spoke against Trump, then capitulated. No one better emblematic of this than Teddy.
This man is a pathological liar.
I'm proud to have worked hand in hand with President Trump.
But he, of course, is not alone. There's Lindsey Graham, Lil Marco, Rand Paul, and probably the biggest orifice in the group, JD.
I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious and is leading the white working class to a very dark place. He's leading our political discourse to a very negative place. I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
But this is the point. They have no power without the rank and file MAGA. During the last 8 years, you heard these voices.
You know what? So what if he wants to grab pussy? I want to grab pussy.
If Donald Trump does not win, what do you do?
I hope that I'm going to die.
You're saying that in California you can kill a newborn baby up to 4 weeks until after it's born?
Absolutely.
That's not true.
That is true.
That's not true.
Passed a law in the last year or two.
That is not true. That's not true.
You need to go do your research.
But every day, these voices have been squelched by the din of reason, like Trump's birthday parade, which drew 10,000 people, while the No Kings protest on the same day drew 15 million. But now, more Americans are realizing that this is the final straw, a war with Iran so Trump can get a little stiffy. MAGA, of course, stands for Make America Great Again. But now that sentiment has changed into a pedestrian simplicity. MAGA is now saying, we just want it over.
I've seen the light. And I got out of MAGA. A lot of us there have seen the light. We have deep regrets.
I feel guilty because I voted for Trump twice. I feel very guilty because I feel responsible. That's why he's still running.
I used to be a MAGA Republican, and now I've turned blue. And it makes me emotional to know that I ever fucking stood by idly and blind and let that shit happen.
Because I know that I have been a Trump supporter, and I can no longer say that I am MAGA. And
I regret my vote for Trump.
I voted for Trump. I'm done. I don't have any more resilience in me.
Man, I can't believe I have to say this, but I'm no longer rocking with Trump.
Which, of course, means it's time to close the door on this American nightmare.
Goddamn right.
Do you have no shame?
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
Yes!
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.